Okay, well, welcome everybody to, I think it's number 12, No Problems, Only Possibilities. And you've just caught me having my breakfast biscuit and a cup of coffee. This week, we've got somebody who is a access bars facilitator from Canada. She's joining me today as a co-facilitator or co-host or a co-presenter or I don't know, a coconut, whatever. And her name is Karen Leslie. Many of you know her because she's been on a lot of these already. So, hi, Karen.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
And today we're talking about getting over nervousness easily. I'm just going to blab a bit first up, Karen, and then and then you can sit in that hot seat there while it just while all the excitement comes up. Actually, today has been, the last couple of days for me, it's been really, really super intense. And it was just when I went to get my cup of coffee, just before the show started, that I started asking this question: what would it take for this to show up better than I could ever possibly imagine? And with that particular tool or question, it just seemed to relax my whole body and my whole being. And I suddenly recognized just how much thinking I've been doing over the last 2 or 3 days. And when we're in thinking mode, it's like things become little molehills, become mountains, and seem to be insurpassable. And that anxiousness or nervousness seems to amp up as well because we're looking at the problems, not at the possibilities. Oh, that's the name of the show.
Ooh, well done.
So with that, it was like with that question, it started to dissipate that energy. So, Karen, is there anything you'd like to add while I have my biscuit?
Well, you stole my opening line, but other than that, it's okay. Because in getting ready for this, I'm thinking, ooh, okay, so what would it take for this to turn out better than I can possibly imagine?
Oh my God, we must be psychic or something.
We must be. And like you just said, all of the symptoms I was feeling in my body all just started to relax and go out. And it was like, yeah, okay, this is going to be fine. This is going to be fun. But when I suggested we talk about overcoming nerves and how to deal with nerves easily, I didn't realize actually just how great the timing was for me. So thank you, Liam.
Yeah.
Because it forced me to slow down and look at what I do to help with nervousness when it comes along and to take it step by step and see what's going on. And it just solidified it so much for me that it was great. So with that simple question, everything calmed down. I guess just for people to know, I have been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder a few different times, depression and suicidal difficulties and all kinds of stuff in my background and my history. So dealing with nerves and nervousness has been a big part of my life. Not until the last couple of years in Access Consciousness did actually find a way that was easy to work with it and find out I don't have an anxiety disorder. I don't have any of these labels that I was given. I was taught by others, well-meaning, to accept those labels and to work within the labels. Now that's not the case anymore. That's not who I am. That's not who Karen is. And life is so much easier, so much more fun, and it's really cool. And if you have questions, please put them in the chat so Liam and I can see them, so we can make sure we answer any questions that you've got today as well. Do you want me just to ramble a little more, or do you want to go and say anything, Liam?
Well, I think you're doing pretty damn good.
Okay, then I'll keep going. When I was saying I think that we're taught to feel this way, it's very common when we're younger. I think I heard Dr. Dane here say a number of years ago that when we're children and we're in line for a ride at a museum park or something, and we're standing there and we're feeling something in our body. And then someone that's with us, someone older, a parent or an older sibling, or someone may turn to you and say, so are you nervous? Are you scared? Don't be afraid. This ride's okay. You hear those words, and then you use those words to label what your body is telling you. And that may not be a correct label, but it's one that you agree with or take on, or you take on their point of view, because this is somebody who you feel you should listen to. And so you misidentify from there on in what your body's telling us. And I've learned that the symptoms my body gives me, whether it be an anxious stomach, butterflies as some people call it, or maybe I start to perspire, or maybe I start to shake, start to feel for whatever it might be for you, because it is going to be different for a lot of us. What I've learned then is to check in and say, okay, hey, who does this belong to? And I found out that this wasn't mine. But there's so many of us that are told that, oh, a lot of people have nervous difficulties, or a lot of people get nervous before they go to do something. With the anxiety disorders, you know what? A lot of people have anxiety. You're in good company. It's okay. And so when I realized that it didn't belong to me, and then thought about people saying, wow, so many other people suffer with that, it's okay. But I was actually picking up on what's going on around me, whether it be in my community or whether it be halfway across the world. A lot of us struggle with nervousness or struggle with anxiety. So our bodies, being the amazing antennas they are, so step one for me, who does this belong to? Not mine. Cool. Return to sender with consciousness attached. May have to say it 3 or 4 times.
300 or 400 times?
Just for that one moment, 3 or 4 times. Who knows how many thousands of times I've said it since Access. Yeah, it's a continual thing. Who does this belong to? Somebody wants some cookies.
Oh my God,
and
you
then,
can hear me crunching, yeah.
That's okay. It's all good. And then I would usually ask, okay, so what energy, space, and consciousness can my body and I be at this moment to deal with these physical symptoms with ease? So what does my body need now so that shaking goes away or the stomach problems go away? So I returned it to sender, and then, okay, body, now what do you need? And just with asking that question frequently, everything just starts to calm down. Often I get the awareness that, okay, you need to just kind of expand your energy field out and lower your barriers, so then my own awareness can come into play and I can actually reconnect to Karen and what's going on. And then, well, probably shouldn't say anything's 100%. So 99% of the time, I find that I'm actually just really excited about something. So when Liam asked me if I wanted to be part of today, I said, yeah, sure. And oh, crap, what have I just done? Guess what symptoms all arrived? I thought, okay, you can do this. But I realized I was actually just really excited to do this. A couple of years ago, I would have misinterpreted this as fear or anxiety, and likely I would have contacted Liam afterwards and said, thanks so much for the opportunity. I'm really sorry. Something's come up. I can't do it. I wouldn't have told him I'm afraid to do it. It would have come up, and I would have made up an excuse and bowed out quasi-gracefully. But it really was that I was just really excited to be here today. And that's what I was feeling. And that's what I find happens so often. When I get these symptoms, it's really something coming in that's trying to mask wonderful that's waiting for me. Maybe it's a potency within me. I've heard other access facilitators, I think most recently Shannon O'Hara, what is fear? What if fear is distracting you from your potency? And I thought, yeah, I can really relate to that. So nerves and anxiety are labels. Label me. I've in a brand new place with it. And I would love to help others understand that they can become a very different person and not be in the confines of that label anymore.
That's really cool. And what we were talking about earlier on is just as I was having my cup of coffee and I'm going, you know, what if this could turn out better than I could ever possibly imagine? And you had exactly the same thought at exactly the same time. And you mentioned that, you know, it's like halfway across the world. Well, I'm in New Zealand, you're in Canada. So, by the way, guys, that's a 23-hour flight. Because I'm going to do it shortly.
Yes.
But that's a very big distance. And so people that have had this label of anxiousness or depression or whatever, really, truly, is it really yours? And that tool, who does it belong to, is such a cool tool. For me, it's been it's been a similar journey. But I was never. Oh, am I bringing an echo? Or somebody?
A little.
Echo. Is that better?
Yes. Yeah, it's good.
Okay, cool. So, so for me, it's like I'm very OCD. Another great label. So I have this capacity to pick up thoughts, feelings, and emotions over at least 8,000 miles, and Karen is way beyond 8,000 miles. So that capacity is ever expanding. And again, that's whenever we've been labeled as something, that becomes a box or a misidentification of our superpowers, of which are awareness, being psychic, being empathic, having a great capacity to sense what other people are thinking and feeling. So how many of us have misidentified those quote unquote symptoms of anxiousness or nervousness as how many of us have misidentified our superpowers as anxiousness or nervousness? And anywhere where we have been and done that, can we now destroy and uncreate it all?
Yes.
Good and bad, right, wrong, pop, pock, all night, short, boys and beyonds, www.theclearingstatement.com, registered trademark. If you want to know what that is, you can go and research it. So I'm a bit gobsmacked this morning. Karen, do you want to just jump in? I mean, you're doing such a great job about explaining it in such different terms to the way that I would explain it.
Well,
or talk about it.
I think one of the key things is to reconnect to our bodies. Our bodies, as I was saying, and it's Liam just do it's just an amazing antenna. We're all energy. Every cell in our body's energy. Energy talks to energy. But when we get into difficulties, and that's kind of like the royal we, but it's me, I shut down my awareness. I stop acknowledging I have this body that is so brilliant. And so part of the, using what energy, space, and consciousness can my body and I be to have ease with this is to help me reconnect to it. Because my body knows, it truly is brilliant. Every cell in my body knows what it would like, what's right for it at this moment. When the anxiousness comes in and I let it sit there, I lose touch with this body. That numb feeling, sometimes my hands go numb if I really let things get out of control that way. It's shutting down my body. How brilliant's that, right? Okay, cute, not too smart. So when I reconnect to my body and say, okay, body, what do you need? Or what else is possible here to move through this with total ease? What do you know that I'm not being aware of? So that's where the excitement can come through, or understanding a potency that I'm ignoring can come through. Or just simply saying, okay, body, what do you need now? Do you need to move? Will that help us with this? Asking, okay, body, is this something that you want to do? This question for this call. I got a big yes. Is it something you're capable of doing? yes. Then I also had to ask, okay, are you willing to take any judgments that somebody may watch this and think, you're full of crap, Karen? And I did get a yes. So I thought, okay, I guess I'm going to do this call. But reconnecting to the body and asking it for it is really important now too. And if you get a no, like, okay, is this something I should be doing? And your body's saying no, questions. Oh, okay, well, is this something that we should be doing a little later or tomorrow? You know, what else do you know here that I'm just not accepting? And then I would work too with, because I found that it was safer for me to stay in anxiety and things sometimes, and safer to stay disconnected from me and my awareness. I didn't want to know what it was. So, you know, everywhere you've decided that living with your awareness shut down or closed off is safer, would you be willing now to destroy and uncreate all that, please?
Yes.
Right and wrong, good and bad, POD and POC, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And everywhere you bought into the fact that hiding from you and the brilliance of you was a really good idea, and you bought someone else's point of view from halfway around the world, maybe. Try and uncreate that now too, please.
Yes.
Right
Well,
and
we
wrong,
can
good and
all
bad,
blame
POD and POC,
Karen.
boys and beyonds. Pardon
We
me?
can all blame it on Karen now.
Yeah, well, okay, there you go.
Actually,
Yeah.
Julie brings up there, I had the awareness recently that I own other people's stuff. I'd rather not know how uncomfortable they are, so it's easier to make it mine. And yeah, like how many of us are actually doing that, making other people's stuff ours, or trying to take out other people's nervousness from their reality? And by doing that, we use those empathic abilities, and still they choose it. So it's unless somebody is actually willing to change it, you're them walking uphill, so to speak. So anywhere where you're trying to take out this stuff from other people, would you now be willing to destroy and uncreate all of that?
Yes.
And let them suffer until they are willing to ask a question and have a different possibility. Good and bad, right, wrong, pop, popcorn, ice, shorts, boys, and beyonds.
I think it was on one of these calls before, Liam, or a call we did, I was on with, and I shared how much you helped me with that idea with my own 3 sons and my own family. Because I got caught in that whirlwind of taking things on for them because I saw they were in pain. They weren't prepared to let it go or change it. So they kept bringing it in. I kept taking it. And it was a never ending cycle until I was able to say, okay, enough. I'm not doing this anymore. And some of them have actually chosen to make some different choices.
Yeah.
I had to back away because I also think taking it on didn't let them know that they really had it.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. If you're taking stuff out of other people and they go, oh, I feel so much better now, but they're not actually choosing it. And it's actually the choice that creates.
Yeah, and I took away their choice.
You nasty person, you.
I know. But mother hasn't taken away choice before.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing is that when we choose to have the anxiousness or nervousness, or buy that label as real, or buy that energy as real when it actually isn't, what we're doing is we're keeping this reality in place. We're keeping the polarity of this reality in place. So we're actually defending this reality with our anxiousness or our depression. I know I've been in spaces. No, it's not space. It's a place where everything is just like, and you have that I don't know going on in your head. I don't know what to do. I'm a pile of poo. I'm pathetic. That is actually defending this reality, because that's what this reality is all about, the smallness. And so every time you do that, you start to defend that reality with that point of view that you're pathetic. So everywhere where you're defending this reality and defending other people's patheticness, and defending your own, would you now be willing to destroy and uncreate all of that?
Yes.
Good and bad, right, wrong, pop, popcorn eyes, short boys, and beyonds. Just with what Julie said, when I actually read it out, it was totally different to what I had interpreted it with my weird head beforehand. And for me, thank you, Julie, for that, because it gave me another awareness of how I perceive uncomfortableness and nervousness. Is that I cut off my awareness, or I try to cut off my awareness from other people, because I don't want to know how uncomfortable they are and how nervous they are. And that's one of the capacities that I have as somebody that has OCD, is that as soon as I walk into a room, I get to be aware of all of the anxiety and all of the anger. I call it AA. And because that's what I was brought up with. I was brought up with anger and anxiety. And so my mum was often anxious, and my dad was often angry. And when I look at it, I can see that I can see the dynamics unfold in front of me as my mum would get anxious and try to control everything. My dad would resist and react to that and get angry, and then there'd be all these huge fights. And so that was always the valuable product, the valuable feeling and emotions that would be swimming around the house. So whenever those energies are up for me in somebody else's reality, that's what I get to be aware of. And because I've bought it as my own, I then start to shrink away from my reality, and from people in general. Or I mimic what my dad or my mum would do, and I would step more into the anxiousness, more into the control. And then I'd get angry at myself for being such a controlling asshole. And then that would spew out onto other people that were around me that are actually trying to be kind and caring. And I'd push them further and further away. So I don't know if any of you guys have ever done that. Probably not. So it's probably just me. So I just pop me, and you guys, you can just keep all of that. So everywhere where I've done that, Liam, where I've defended this reality with the emotion that I bought when I was a kid as vital, valuable, and real, or as whatever emotion you bought as a kid as vital, valuable, and real, will you now destroy and uncreate it all, please?
Yes.
Good and bad, right, wrong, pop, popcorn, nice, short boys, and meals. And it even works with happiness, guys. It's like if you have if you're a child and your point of view is to make your parents happy, you're gonna be, it's an uphill battle all the way, because unless your parents choose it, you have to in the end come to the wrongness of you. That's the algorithm, is I can't make my parents happy, I must be doing something wrong. And so you keep on going into I'm wrong, I'm wrong, I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And all that does is create you as a finite being, and you've labeled yourself into a box of wrongness. So it doesn't really matter what emotion or energy that you were brought up with. If you make it vital, valuable, or real in any way, you're going to stick yourself with it. So whatever that energy is for you, for me, it was anxiousness and anxiety. And because I wanted to help my parents, it was also like I wanted them to be happy. So whenever anybody is not happy now in my quote unquote family or friends, it's like I pick it up, I start sucking it out, and my body, as Karen was saying, is this amazing thing that will give you awareness, and and those symptoms will start to show up. So anywhere where you've done that, anywhere where you've perpetrated that, anywhere where you've bought that in any lifetime, space, dimension, or reality, would you now be willing to destroy and uncreate it all?
Yes.
Right, run, pop, up, corner, short boys and beyonds. Yeah, someone's yawning there.
Yep.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Karen, we've got a couple of minutes. Is there anything you'd like to add to that? Or
I just think you don't need to worry about what tools need to come to mind. Just ask yourself a question. Just start asking, okay, what question do I need to ask here? That's the only thing I think that's key to remember is, and when you're starting to feel this way or out of sorts in any way, it doesn't matter, don't label it. Just try and ask a question. I used to get really hung up on asking the right question. Just saying, okay, so what can I ask here? Or body, what do you know? And just let the questions flow is just step one. There's no wrong way to do this other than, like you just want to stay in questions and you'll get there. And it takes practice. And we live in a society that, as Liam was saying, it defends all of these labels, and we want to make people feel actually better when they're given the label. That's not the case for some of us anymore. So I work now at not defending the society. When someone says they have anxiety or whatever, I say, well, do you really want to keep that? And that brings some pretty harsh judgments sometimes, but that's okay because I know it can go away. Without the meds, without the counseling, without all of these set structures that I grew up with. I've had this since I was 16. I'm going to be 60 soon. So I had a long time with all of this crap and only a couple of years without it. So just ask a question. No question's wrong. Just don't have an answer waiting for it. Just let it be open.
And also, guys, it's like anxiety and nervousness. What if it was not a wrongness? How can you use it to your advantage? One time when I was in America, we landed in LA. I was going to Costa Rica, and I stayed overnight, and I had to get the hotel bus to the airport. And it was like 10 minutes late, 15 minutes late. Now it's half an hour late. People were starting to go up and talk to the woman at the desk saying, where's the bus, where's the bus, where's the bus? And that wasn't creating the bus. And I was starting to pick up everybody's anxiousness again. And then I started using these tools. Okay, who does it belong to? Okay, so it's not mine. How can I use this to my advantage? So I went up and very sweetly I said to the lady, I'm really, really sorry, but I'm very OCD, and I'm likely to go postal if the bus isn't here very, very shortly. Can you possibly help me? For those of you that don't know what going postal is, there was an American mass murder where a postman killed 30 people in a gun shoot, and so it's called going postal. Well, she looked at me, and of course you don't want somebody that's going to be going ballistic around you. So within, 2 minutes, the bus driver was there. And so but that's how I was able to use it to my advantage. And then when the bus was there, everybody else's anxiety went from here to here. And so I actually used the tools in a way that created less stress for everybody else, rather than trying to suck all of that stress and anxiety out of everybody. So if you're willing to be an interesting point of view about nervousness and anxiety or anger or whatever it is for you, you can then use these energies in a way that can create more ease without you having to take it all on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And can I add one quick thing?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I have a friend who is going on a date, met somebody online going for coffee or whatever. and kept having anxiousness about it. So I suggested a few tools and whatever, but this person chose to ignore the no the body was giving about going, and just went and got into a bit of a precarious situation. Everything's fine, everything's cool, nothing, it was all fine. But that was also an example of where, the body was saying, no, not now, not this person, and it was ignored. So, so that getting a no isn't a wrongness either. We just need to, as I said earlier, just ask other questions. But you reminded me of that, of Liam. We can, the tools are there to offer us an infinite amount of possibilities, and they truly can and do look after us. Our body wants us to be wonderful, wants us to be happy, wants us to be safe, wants us to be all these lovely words. And sometimes that means not doing certain things.
Cool.
Not being in judgment of it.
Well, we're just gone over time. So, Karen, I believe you've got a bars class coming up and a few other things coming up in
I do.
Canada.
2 weeks.
Toronto.
2 weeks tomorrow. 2 weeks today. Liam lands in Canada, in Toronto. And so we have a bars class being run on the Friday with Liam. And then Friday night, we have an introduction to Talk to the Entities class. It has no prerequisites. You don't even need your bars, but you could also take your bars first during the day and stay and hang out with us all evening too. And then we've got the Talk to the Entities beginning class on Saturday and Sunday. So lots of fun and excitement coming up. It'll be really great. I'm looking forward to it.
Cool.
You'll probably feel some of my excitement coming through in different symptoms. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, you mean you're actually allowed to show? Oh, God, there's another half an hour there. Just
a whole other one on that side of the coin.
The wrongness in this reality.
Yep.
Like it's wrong to be excited. It's wrong to be turned on. Everything that is, can we destroy and uncreate it all?
Pod and pock.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fair, right, run, pop, all night, short boys and meons. And also just to add with the entities thing is that entities often use these particular energies, emotional energies or feelings to try to connect with us. So if you haven't done a Talk to the Entities class and you're one of these people that has a lot of this anxiety or nervousness coming up in your reality, you may like to ask that question and include your body in the question. If I choose to go to a Talk to the Entities class, what will my life be like in 5 years? And just to add to that, is the first time I went to a Talk to the Entities class, I was so nervous, and I'd already done Foundation and Choice of Possibilities with Gary Douglas, and a few other classes as well, big classes. And I was still nervous about going to one of these classes. And when I actually got to the class, I realized why I was nervous within 5 minutes, because none of it was mine. It was all of these entities trying to control me, trying to not get me to the class, trying to get me to the class because they wanted the clearings and the information as well. And so the first time that I did it, like for 2 days beforehand, I was in such a pickle that I chose not to go. And then 2 weeks later, I realized that that was not my best choice. And I asked again, and I went, I've got to do this. I'm just resisting and reacting to it so much. There must be something there. So if you are resisting and reacting to a Talk to the Entities class, even if you only get to the intro, that will probably give you at least a few extra tools to know when that is starting to show up in your reality. Yeah.
I assumed intro class would give me nothing. For 20 years, I worked with energy and spirit and bits. I was really, really wrong. The intro class alone on it was amazing, and it really, oh yeah, just because you may know a little bit about it, maybe a lot and work with it, it doesn't mean that this can't contribute to you. So really check in and ask, because yeah, I was definitely wrong. I'm glad I didn't let that judgment get in my way of what could they possibly teach me. They taught, well, Liam, this man, taught me a hell of a lot.
Cool. Okay, thank you, Karen, for being my second guest on this. Julie was first guest last week, and next week we have a guest from Down Under, my friend and business partner, Andrew Rigg, and we're going to be talking about making business easy. So what we'll probably be looking at, and we're going to call it, actually it's called Everyday Business. And what we'll be looking at is some of the behind the scenes stuff with business, because this is my business. This is part of my business, is running these shows. But you guys don't get to see what you actually have to do and be to create a show like this. And so we'll be looking at some of those things of what the energies of what we can be, and also some of the things that we can do to make business more fun, more ease, and more expansive for you. So if you'd like to come along to that, I thoroughly recommend it. Andrew and I, about 3 years ago, created a $500,000 business in 12 months. And it was phenomenal to see it when we really chose to do it, and it was just like magic. So if you'd like your life and your business to show up like magic, I would really recommend listening to that one next week.
Please.
So what else is possible? And thanks everybody for coming along. We didn't get to have a look at all of the stuff on the chat, but what else is possible there? And we'll see you next week about the same time-ish. Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.